A 21-year-old exile sits at a piano, and the room falls silent. Schumann calls him a genius. Liszt calls him beyond comparison. He wrote almost exclusively for one instrument. Yet 2 centuries later, nearly every serious pianist on earth still plays his music. So just how good was Frédéric Chopin? The answer begins far from Paris, in a small Polish village with a 6-year-old boy at the keys. Before the world knew his name, Frédéric Chopin was a small boy in a quiet Polish manor, surrounded by fields, church bells, and the distant hum of village dances. His mother, Justina, played the piano in the evenings, her hands moving gently over the keys as she filled the house with melodies from the old country. It was here, in this candlelit parlour, that Chopin first reached for the instrument, barely tall enough to see the keys, but already drawn to its sound like a moth to a flame. Parish records confirm his birth on March 1st, but the real story began at home. By age 4, he was copying his mother's hands, picking out tunes by ear, sometimes inventing new ones when he ran out of songs to play. Family diaries describe a scene. Justina guiding his fingers, correcting his posture, teaching him to listen for the music inside each note. Sometimes the lessons would pause so he could run outside and mimic the rhythms of the mazurka drifting in from a distant wedding. By 6, Chopin was improvising for guests in the family salon, short pieces, often unfinished, but brimming with the lyricism that would later define his music. His older sister Ludwika joined in, turning their lessons into playful duets and gentle competitions. The household was modest, but every corner seemed to echo with music, folk songs, salon pieces, even the odd waltz from a visiting neighbour. These early years, shaped by his mother's patience and the soundscape of rural Poland, planted the seeds of a voice that would one day change the world of piano forever. But as his talent grew, so did the demands of formal education. The quiet magic of those first lessons would soon give way to the discipline of the classroom, and a young prodigy would be tested in ways no one could predict. At age 16, Chopin entered the Warsaw Conservatory, stepping from the warmth of his family's salon into a world of strict discipline and high expectations. Josef Elsner, a respected composer and teacher, became his guide. Elsner's notebooks, still preserved today, show pages filled with counterpoint exercises and harmonic puzzles. He demanded precision, but he also encouraged Chopin to weave Polish folk melodies into classical forms, a rare freedom in a rigid curriculum. Each lesson sharpened Chopin's technique, but also deepened his sense of identity. By 17, he had finished his Opus 1 Polonaise, a piece that captured both his technical prowess and his longing for home. Warsaw was changing fast. In the autumn of 1830, the November uprising erupted. Young Poles, including many of Chopin's friends, took up arms against Russian rule. The city's energy shifted from salons to barricades. Chopin, torn between his art and his country, faced a choice. Passport records from October 1830 show his application to leave Poland, citing the need to study abroad. Letters to his family reveal his heartbreak and hope that by sharing Polish music in Europe, he might serve his homeland in a different way. As he departed, Chopin carried with him the sounds of revolution. In Vienna, news reached him of Warsaw's defeat. The anger and sorrow poured into his music. The Etude Opus 10 No. 12, later called the Revolutionary, exploded with stormy left-hand runs and urgent harmonies. It was more than a technical showpiece, it was a cry for a lost country. By the time Chopin reached Paris, he was not just a prodigy or a student. He was an exile, a young artist marked forever by his nation's struggle and ready to make the world listen. In the salons where candlelight flickered over velvet and marble, Chopin's music found its first true believers. These rooms were not concert halls, but private worlds where the elite gathered to judge, gossip, and discover the next sensation. Chopin, still in his early 20s, played with a restraint that drew listeners closer. His touch was so delicate that even hardened critics leaned in, afraid to miss a single note. It was in these circles that Robert Schumann, already a respected composer and critic, heard Chopin's variations on a Mozart theme. Schumann's review, published in December 1831, rang out across the music world. He declared, "Hats off, gentlemen, a genius." That single phrase became a passport. Suddenly, Chopin was not just another foreigner in Paris. He was the young master everyone wanted to meet. Franz Liszt, the city's reigning piano virtuoso, wrote to friends about the poetic fire in Chopin's Etudes. In letters, Liszt called him the true poet of the piano, a rare admission from a man used to dazzling audiences with his own brilliance. Their mutual respect was real. Liszt attended Chopin's performances, sometimes sitting in silence, sometimes praising him in the press. The salons echoed with talk of this quiet Polish exile who could make the piano sing and sigh like no one before. These endorsements did more than boost Chopin's reputation. They brought commissions, students, and the keys to Paris's most influential drawing rooms. With every new review, every whispered compliment, Chopin's freedom to compose on his own terms grew. The world was beginning to listen and believe. In 1836, a new force entered Chopin's life. Aurore Dupin, better known as George Sand, was unlike anyone he had met. A novelist with a sharp mind, a fierce will, and a reputation for breaking rules. Their connection was immediate, but far from simple. Letters between them reveal a partnership that blurred the lines between love, art, and survival. Sand became his confidant and protector, shielding him from the chaos of Paris and negotiating his contracts when illness left him too weak to speak. By 1838, Chopin's health had grown precarious. Persistent coughing, fevers, and exhaustion shadowed his days. Doctors whispered the word tuberculosis, though no cure was offered. Hoping for relief, Sand brought him to the island of Majorca. The promise of sun and sea faded quickly. Rain battered the stone monastery at Valdemossa, and the damp air only worsened his condition. Yet, in that cold, lonely retreat, Chopin's creativity ignited. He filled pages with the 24 preludes, opus 28, short haunting pieces that seemed to capture every shade of longing, hope, and despair. His letters from Majorca speak of sleepless nights, trembling hands, and music pouring out between bouts of fever. The preludes, written while his body faltered, reveal a spirit that refused to yield. Chopin's genius thrived in the space between sanctuary and suffering, a fragile body, a burning mind, and music that turned pain into something eternal. He reinvented what the instrument could do. In the Paris salons, his Etudes Opus 10 and Opus 25 burst onto the scene, not as dry technical drills, but as works of art. Each etude demanded new feats, torrents of arpeggios, lightning-fast thirds, left-hand leaps that seemed impossible, all woven into melodies that lingered in the memory. Pianists studied them for their hands, but audiences remembered them for their hearts. Then came the Ballade No. 1 in G minor. Chopin took the old idea of a narrative ballad and transformed it into a single, sweeping piano story. The piece opens with a gentle question, then surges into drama, shifting from longing to triumph and back again. It is a journey told without words, but every phrase feels like a chapter. No one before had written a piano work with such a sense of unfolding drama. Chopin's touch at the keyboard was just as radical. He used rubato, subtle stretching and compressing of time, to make the piano sing like a human voice. His pedal markings, often detailed in his manuscripts, reveal an obsession with color and resonance. Where others used the pedal for volume, Chopin used it to blur, shimmer, and breathe. This new vocabulary of fluid tempo, singing line, and painterly pedal became the secret language of his art. The world of piano would never sound the same again. Debussy, Ravel, and Rachmaninoff, three names that echo across concert halls, each carrying a piece of Chopin's legacy. Claude Debussy once wrote that Chopin's nocturnes taught him how to let harmony breathe beneath melody. In Clair de Lune, the chromatic shimmer and suspended time are direct descendants of those late-night reveries Chopin composed in Paris. Maurice Ravel, too, studied Chopin's pedal markings, searching for new colors in the piano's voice. His Pavané pour une unforgettable borrows the gentle lyricism and subtle form found in Chopin's nocturnes and mazurkas. In Russia, Sergei Rachmaninoff kept Chopin's annotated scores close at hand. His prelude in G minor and the Etudes tableau show the same sweeping left hand and singing line, a clear homage to the poetic fire of Chopin's etudes. Letters from Rachmaninoff describe Chopin's nocturnes as the model for his own night pieces, while conservatory syllabi from Moscow to New York list Chopin's etudes as the essential foundation before tackling Liszt or Rachmaninoff himself. The Polonaise Opus 53, nicknamed Heroic, became a touchstone for grand nationalistic piano writing. Later composers borrowed its bold rhythms and triumphant spirit, using it as a blueprint for their own musical statements. Across Europe and beyond, Chopin's innovations did not fade. They multiplied, shaping the sound of modern piano music and inspiring generations to find their own voice through his daring poetic language. Chopin's music still pulses through concert halls and headphones alike, its intimacy undimmed, its power undiminished. Each year, over 5,000 pianists compete in international Chopin competitions, chasing that elusive spark. His genius isn't just remembered, it's alive, challenging us to listen, to feel, and to wonder what we might create next.